At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
24 chefs, 24 culinary showdowns for 24 hours straight. Which chef will outcook, outpace, outlast the competition?
No chef
Escapes the clock. All new 24 and 24 Last Chef Standing, Sunday night at 8. See it first on Food Network. Stream next day on Max.
That's your money saying it's time for a McDonald's run. Because with new McValue at McDonald's, you get more than you expect. Like buy a 6-piece McNuggets and add a McChicken for just $1. Your money says let's go. Get more than you expect with new McValue. Prices and participation may vary. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
Hello and welcome to the 1865 match report as we look back on Nottingham Forest's disappointing 2-0 home defeat to Brentford, which looks like it's going to be a game and a result which was a hammer blow to the Reds' hopes of qualifying for the Champions League next season. I think most Forest fans coming into the game, particularly after we saw the team news, were positive and hopeful of what the night would bring. But in the end, we got a poor performance from Forest, punctuated with some good moments. We got thunder unexpectedly and a bit of a downpour. But the most disappointing thing of all was the result and the manner of it and the goals that Forest conceded, which we will look at in a bit more detail. I'm Stephen Topless and I'm joined by the Maradona of the Midlands for this match report. We'll start then, Maradona, with the Forest team news. And that was all positive. It was 4 changes from Nuno, but the big news was that Aina's back.
Yeah, I was very, very confident. Somebody actually got in touch with me with the team news at about 4 p.m. and said it had been leaked. And so I wasn't sure whether to believe him or not at the time because it sounded too good to be true. Elanga starting, Aina starting, Yates starting, Nico Williams starting. It looked like pretty much a full-strength side. And at that point, my confidence was buoyed. I was pretty much certain that, it's going to be one of those rip-roaring evenings when everybody piles into the Trent on a nice sunny evening and the whole team's buzzing and the crowd's buzzing and we just demolish Brentford. But they're a tricky opponent, aren't they? And it didn't really turn out like that.
And that team news in full then. So we had Matt Sells in goal, Ola Aina at right back, returning, Nikola Milenkovic, Murillo and Nico Williams making up the rest of the back four. Ryan Yates back into the midfield, Elliot Anderson alongside him. In front of them, Anthony Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi with Chris Wood up top. And yeah, much like you, I saw that team news and thought, right, here we go, then bring it on. Forest getting back to full strength and hopefully with it, a good performance and a good victory. But as we know, Brentford are a wily bunch. They've caused us no end of problems in the past, particularly at the City ground. And the game proved to be another example of that. And when the match started, I felt that Forest were just not on their game, struggling to pass the ball, struggling to hold on to it. And it felt like, and this was a common theme of the night, it felt like we kept picking the wrong options, not spreading the ball out wide when it needed to go and looking to play short and inside, or trying to play a few Hollywood balls when a simple ball out wide would have been the easier and better option.
Yeah, I think that's been a bit of a theme the last few matches, to be honest with you. I mean, definitely the first half at Wembley. After the Wembley game, I felt it was a lack of self-belief, a lack of self-confidence in the players, and I think that's probably maybe shown itself again. You sort of see that they're playing in their heads now too much. They're thinking about it too much. It's that dreaded word, pressure. For all season, they've been playing sort of with a freedom with a smile on their faces, just sort of be happy to be where they are with no pressure on them. And now all of a sudden, once you've had it and the expectations are there, it's been in their grasp for the last few months, being chased and with the prospect of losing it, the pressure is just ratcheted up. And you can see it on the faces. It's etched all over the tension on the faces of the players. They're not smiling. They're all frowning. They're all grimacing when they're playing. And that self-confidence, self-belief sort of gone from where they don't really. I don't think they believe they're good enough to qualify for the Champions League. They don't feel like they're Champions League players. And I think that's a really telling thing in their performances. They're just not playing with that sort of freedom and confidence to sort of play the right ball, play it first time, take a touch and move it on, and just do the simple things and just go at the opponents with a bit more vigor and energy. They just look so sort of listless, which maybe leads me on to the second point, where there is that element of fatigue now. We're all near the end of the season. We haven't got the biggest squad. We've sort of played more or less the same players throughout the season. And that fatigue is maybe just kicking in, especially after Wembley. The sort of emotions are playing in that big stage and on that big pitch, that oxygen-sucking pitch of Wembley. And the emotion of sort of losing when all the dreams of going there back again to win the cup. So I think it's a combination of pressure, tiredness, a lack of form from that tiredness. Your players like Gibbs-Whites and your Langers and Hudson-Odois, they're not sort of producing those bits of magic they were earlier in the season. And it's all combining to make a very nervy end to the season where, I don't know, I hate to say it, but pre-match I was thinking, well, we can probably win all 4 or 5 remaining matches now. Now, there's 5 matches as it was then. Now I can't see us even scoring a goal. Can you, Stephen? They just look completely clueless.
They look like a completely different team to the one which, even just a couple of weeks ago, was beating the likes of Man City and just playing with a confidence and a belief. Now, on the subject of fatigue and tiredness, there's not a lot we can do about that because we have a smallish squad. We've only got so many options on the bench to change it up, and perhaps the options that we have got on the bench are not offering enough when they do come onto the pitch. But on the subject of pressure and expectation, is there anything we can do to change that? Is that on us, the fans, as well? Have we become a bit too complacent? Because we went into the Everton game thinking, yeah, it's only Everton, we can beat them. And we did. I think we were guilty of that last night as well, thinking, yeah, our best players are back in the team. We know we're a better team than Brentford. We can beat them. And look what's happened. 2 defeats and 2 damaging defeats.
Yeah, I think the exact same things happen to the fans as it has to the players. The fans want it so much that they're racked with tension as well at the games. They're not expressing themselves with the sort of joy and ferocity that we're used to seeing a City Ground crowd react with. That pressure's got to the fans as well. It's any sort of thing that goes in a slightly negative way, and it's groans and sort of that you can see that hear the sort of deflating sound from the fans sort of coming through very, very clearly. It's just I don't know. It's really tricky now. The players just looked mentally gone last night. They looked shocked. And sort of, I don't know. Speaking logically, I think we still only need 3 wins to get one of the Champions League places. And if you told me that, and we've got West Ham to play, Leicester to play, and Chelsea at home, I would have taken that all day long, up to about 24 hours ago, Stephen. But now suddenly it feels like a gargantuan task. I just don't know. I don't know how Nuno gets them out of this funk. I mean, I jokingly put on our group chat on our pod group chat that he's got to just take them out on the lash and just get them completely wasted, just to change the mindset, or just do something completely and out of the ordinary, because there's a conventional wisdom is not working here. Training and massages and ice baths isn't helping them. They need to maybe go paintballing over the weekend or go-karting or on an army assault course. just to get their minds out of their heads and just sort of start laughing and joking again and feel a bit more relaxed. I don't know if that's, I know they won't do that, but maybe I think they should.
No, it feels like one way or another we've got to get back that confidence and mentality that we had earlier in the season. I think the way that first half panned out last night, Brentford looked the more confident and assured team early on. They had the chance through Sepp Vandenberg. It was a free kick that was swung in from the right-hand side. Vandenberg got the header and Sells made a good reflex save to get it away. And it felt like Forest gradually got on top in that first half. And even though they didn't have many clear-cut chances, it felt like they were getting more of a foothold in the game. And then with a couple of minutes to go before the break, it's Brentford who score the goal. And it comes from a long ball forward. I think it's Nathan Collins who hits one high and over the Forest defence. Kevin Schade is running onto it. And it's Sunday League stuff, the way that we deal with it, because Milenkovic is hesitant, doesn't attack the ball even just to try and get something on it and hook it away. Murillo's hesitant. It leaves Ola Aina in there to deal with Schade. He's in front of him and he's perhaps a bit unlucky because it looks like he slips over and loses his footing. Schade then just knocks the ball past Sells for the goal. But it feels like that kind of goal is something that is so uncharacteristic of this Forest team to concede, particularly this season.
Yeah, it was deeply, deeply frustrating. And it just wouldn't have happened a few months ago. Milenkovic and Murillo just look like completely different players. It looked like their confidence is gone. And their the sort of just aggression out of their game and sort of the way they used to boss the opposition. It's just they've lost it. I don't know. They're just hesitant, as you say. It was schoolboy defending. It just one straight ball, and I don't know. I just don't know how they conceded it. I just don't know. I still don't know. I've looked back at both goals again today, and I just don't understand how can that happen. It's just weird.
Yeah, it was a disappointing goal to concede, to say the least, and it meant that Forest went into the break 1-0 down.
The 1865 Match Report.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need, have coverage options to protect the things you value most, file a claim right on the State Farm mobile app, and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Welcome back to this 1865 match report as we look back on Forest's 2-0 defeat at home to Brentford. At half-time, we had a rainstorm and thunder all of a sudden over the City ground. And as the players came out for the second half and as the fans returned to their seats, we had a torrential downpour, which I don't think anybody saw coming. It was a night of surprises, wasn't it? But I actually hoped that might have worked in Forest's favour and let the ball move around the pitch a bit better and just wake everybody up.
Yeah, I think it sort of reflected everybody's mood, really, the weather. It was as if God himself was lamenting Forest's predicament at that point, and his tears were raining down from heaven. The way they soaked the City ground pitch. It was always so heavy that it was almost sewed the ball down, to be honest with you, rather than making it zippy. It was such a big downpour of water. You could see the sort of water sort of splashing around as the ball was moving around. It was fizzing up. So it didn't really help, unfortunately, no. As at one point, I was hoping that it might keep on raining even harder and the game might get called off. But I think that was wishful thinking on my part.
Felt the more likely outcome because that rain kept coming for the first couple of minutes of the second half, and it got worse and worse. And that would have done Forest a big favour, wouldn't it? But at half-time, Nuno made a change. He brought Callum Hudson-Odoi off, and in his place, on came Nicolas Dominguez. And Dominguez moved over to the right-hand side, Alanga over to the left, which I'm not sure gets the best out of Alanga, but we'll come on to that in a second. But it looks like Hudson-Odoi might have picked up some form of injury, and that's why he went off. He seemed a bit unsure for the last 20 minutes or so of the first half, so not really sure what happened, but we're hoping it's nothing serious.
Yeah, well, I think he was feeling it quite early on because Dominguez was at one point ready to come on, so pretty much about halfway through the first half, and then Callum must have said, "No, I'm okay to continue." But he looked very frustrated as he trudged off the pitch, and you've got to say at this point in the season, if he's got a hamstring injury, that's probably him out the last 4 games now. With regards to the substitution, it was a bit of a surprise when we're a goal down, needing the win. Maybe he didn't bring on somebody a bit more attacking. I thought maybe it would have been an ideal time to bring on maybe Jota Silva or Ruben Sosa. I think maybe a bit too cautious there from Nuno. And moving Alanga over to the left as well. We might as well talk about Alanga now. I was frustrated by him, Stephen. He got into some shenanigans with Keane Lewis Potter in the first half, didn't he? We haven't mentioned that. Maybe we should mention the yellow cards at some point. But he never went at him again. He was playing that left side of defence for Brentford. After Keane Lewis Potter got his yellow card, he just wouldn't run at him. He kept on swinging the ball in from distance. I was begging him to run into the box because he couldn't make a challenge. If he made a challenge, he was going to go off. But that was frustrating. And then in the second half, moving him over to the stronger side of the Brentford defence as well didn't work either. He should have kept him on the right and then let him have a go at the substitute, who was Rico Henry. And he's coming back from an injury. He wouldn't have relished Alanga running at him the whole of that second half either. So I think a couple of opportunities missed there from Nuno and Alanga himself.
Brentford made a significant change at half-time. They brought Keane Lewis Potter off. I think he was lucky to stay on the pitch in that first half. First of all, he went in for a challenge on the byline with Anthony Alanga. Looked like he smashed him with his elbow. And a silly move from him, and he got a booking for it, deservedly so. I think it potentially could have been more. Again, that was on the wrong side of the pitch to me. So, I might have seen it a bit differently.
It wasn't quite that bad, Steve, because he although he'd do like a body slam on Alanga, it didn't necessarily involve his elbows or anything. So it was a naughty challenge. He was looking at Alanga when he did the challenge, but a yellow card was the right result there. And the reason he did that was because he just got kicked by Alanga a few minutes earlier, and he was a bit angry about that. But sorry, carry on, Steve.
But then later in the half, Ola Aina gets forward, and as he's just coming towards the edge of the penalty area, he's body checked by Lewis Potter, who really should have had a second yellow card for that. I think the threshold for a second yellow card goes up when a player's already on a booking, but if that had happened earlier in the game and he wasn't already on a booking, Keane Lewis Potter, I think he would have got a yellow card for it. So I don't understand why he doesn't get the yellow card in that situation, and with it, the red. Yeah,
I mean, technically, you're absolutely correct, but referees don't do that. They do lift the bar for that second yellow. If that challenge was the first offence, he would have got that yellow card there. So it does seem a bit unfair. But I mean, the referee in general, he was very card happy, wasn't he, Stephen? He started off quite early on by giving Morgan Gibbs-White a yellow card.
Yeah, it was the 8th minute, wasn't it? I mean, it did look like Morgan dived in a bit. Looked like he got the ball, but I think one of those that early in the game, you can let that go. But by giving the yellow card, I think the referee just set a precedent for the rest of the game. And I think he lost control of it, actually, because once he's given a yellow card for that, He's got to give yellows for so many other offences. And I thought actually his performance was abysmal. He wasn't the reason that Forest lost the game, but he certainly didn't help the cause, because not only was he booking Forest players in situations like that, he booked Elliot Anderson as well for a soft one. So he had to then take it easy for the rest of the game. But he was allowing Brentford to take so much time over restarts. And I couldn't understand what the referee was doing. He kept, instead of watching what the goalkeeper was doing or the Brentford defenders with the ball, he was just talking to players on the pitch, almost like he was having a conversation with them before a set piece or before a goal kick. And he wasn't fully clocking the time wasting that was going on. I couldn't understand what he was doing, and neither could the City Ground crowd. We all were getting annoyed because it was so obvious what was going on, yet we had a referee who didn't want to do anything about it.
Yeah, he seemed to want an easy life, didn't he, Stephen? It was a surprise, the lack of additional time, especially at full time, but also at half time. It was nowhere near enough. Not that probably would have scored, because as we mentioned earlier, they could still be playing, and I don't think they would have scored. They were so bereft of ideas. But yeah, it's. I mean, I don't like moaning about referees, but yeah, he didn't help the situation. You're correct.
My mind goes back to, it might have been last season, Forest Brentford at the City Ground. I think Brentford were 2-1 down going into second half injury time, and we had 11 minutes of stoppage time in that game. And then we had 4 last night. So yeah, bit of an insult, I thought, given the events of last night, but we move on. But enough about the referee. Let's get back to the second half. And Anthony Elanga actually cutting in from that left side, had a good opportunity about 5 minutes into the second half, cuts inside, drills a low shot towards the far corner, and Mark Flecken goes down, makes a good save to palm it away. And I think in the second half, Forest were the better team. There was still elements, though, of sloppy play where we weren't picking the right pass, or players were not looking confident enough to make the right decisions. And despite being the better team, it didn't feel like we were playing particularly well.
Yeah, no, you're right. We didn't really create much, really, apart from that Elanga shot. There's a few balls into the box. The frustrating thing for me is whenever we had a free kick, I think we were offside every single time. We do that silly thing where you sort of go and stand in an offside position, then run back. We just couldn't get it right last night. I think at least 2 or 3 times in the second half, we just let the momentum slip away again because we were caught offside. And it's that old. I mean, we weren't necessarily playing too much differently last night to the way we played all season. But early on in the season, we'd get a chance and we'd take it, and that'd be 1-0, and then we'll be on our way. We've been flattered with that XG statistic all season, where we've outperformed XG all year. Where XG, for people who don't know, is basically a measure of the quality of chances you create. So if your XG is 5, but you scored 10 goals, it means you're getting 10 goals where you should only really be getting 5 goals. And eventually that's going to catch up with you if you're not creating that many chances in a match, and you go slightly off form, and you're not getting the service to your main man in Chris Woods. You're going to struggle to score goals. I think he only had one real clear-cut chance last night, which was a header, but I think he would have been disappointed with it, was Stephen. He sort of skewed it wide, didn't he, when he had half a chance to score?
Yeah, it was well wide as well, actually. And looking at the chance back, you feel he might have been better off trying to put it back across the keeper and taking the header on more flush and putting a bit more control on it. But yeah, that was one of the big chances, one of the few big chances that Forest had. And it was the man who you wanted on the end of it, but that one went wide. On the hour mark, Nuno made his second change, and Forest brought on Taiwo Awoniyi. He replaced Elliot Anderson, which surprised me. I assumed that Chris Wood would be going off in that situation, but it was Elliot Anderson. and it meant that we had Taiwo and Chris Wood playing up top together. A rare occurrence.
Yeah, a rare occurrence. I, for one, thought he might take off one of the defensive midfielders, so probably Yates would go off there and keep the creativity of Elliot Anderson on. So I was a little bit surprised as well by the choice of player. Taiwo came on, and I think I've defended him as much as anybody during the course of the season. I was adamant that we didn't need to sign a second striker because Taiwo is going to eventually step up and be a hero this season. But he's just so ineffective. He just doesn't do anything. Okay, you can accept a player being out of form, not scoring the goals. But when you're the size of Taiwo is, you got to come on and just let the defenders know you're there. Just rough them up a bit. Just be physical. Push them around. Just be nasty. Just create space for other players. He literally does nothing. He just sprinting seems too much for him just to get to the ball. It's like you might as well not have him on the pitch. He's like playing with 10 men when he's been coming on the last few weeks. It's weird and it's really disappointing.
It's such a shame, isn't it, the drop-off with him? Because, funnily enough, on the morning of the game, I was watching some clips from 2 seasons ago, like the games against Brighton and Southampton, which were around this time of year as well. And the Southampton game, looking at the highlights, Taiwo's a different player. He's bullying the centre-backs. When the ball is coming to him in the box, he's confident, he takes on the shot. He scored twice in that game as well with quite instinctive finishes. But he just looks like a completely different player now. And sadly, we are in a position we cannot carry anybody, particularly at this point of the season and where players are dropping in form. Taiwo's a passenger, and I think his days are numbered at the club.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he and Sangare and Danilo would step up and sort of justify their big transfer fees at this sort of business end of the season, come in fresh from not having played all season. It's just not worked out that way. They just haven't offered, all three of them, when they have been in the team. Well, come on, just don't engender any belief in you that they're going to do anything, and they don't look like they believe in themselves either, which is probably even more worrying. So yeah, that's another factor into why sort of maybe we had that drop off where we needed some fresh legs and players who wanted to prove that they're worth being in the team, a bit like Harry Toffolo did down at Tottenham. When he needed really step up to the mark, but Taiwo and the other guys just haven't done it. They're just completely ineffective, as I said before.
And then on 70 minutes, things got worse for Forest. Brentford scored their second goal, and it's basically a carbon copy of the first. This time it's Mark Flecken who hits a long punt down the pitch. Murillo fails to deal with it in the first instance. The ball bounces, and then Nikola Milenkovic does nothing to prevent the ball going through to Johan Wissa. He's one-on-one with Matt Sells, and he just dinks the ball over the keeper into the net for 2-0. And I just couldn't believe that Forest had conceded the same kind of amateur goal again in this match. I just couldn't understand why our defenders were so troubled by these balls.
I couldn't. I mean, it's the first rule of being a centre half. Don't let it bounce. But on both occasions, those goals would have been prevented if they just hadn't let it bounce, just attack the ball, just being on the front foot and positive about it. It just speaks again of just the lack of confidence they've got. I think, Steve, and that hesitancy, that just thinking about it too much rather than just playing. You going on instinct and just doing it. Just they've done themselves in there. And that's what. And as Radiohead said, that's what really hurts. You do it to yourself. And it feels like these few games, we've done it to ourselves. The teams haven't had to be particularly good to beat us. The Murillo mistake against Everton, the dodgy defending at Villa Park in the first half, the collapse at Newcastle, we can go back that far, and last night just giving away amateur hour goals. It's just we've done ourselves in, and that's the. I mean, if we miss out on Champions League, that's what's going to irk us over the summer. It's really going to hurt us, and it's not that we've been outplayed in any of these games or we've been beaten by better sides. We've just not done our jobs properly, which we've done so well for the whole season. I've been saying all season, if we do our jobs, we work harder than the other teams, sprint more than them, we'll win most games. And at the moment, we're just not doing those basic fundamentals. And some of that is down to tiredness. Some of that is down to mental attitude, I'm afraid.
If you take out the individual mistakes in the Everton and Brentford games here, it would have been 2-0 nils, and while not perfect, it would have been far from disastrous, and Forest would be in a healthier position in the table. But it just shows you how damaging these two defeats at home in particular have been. Let's just wrap things up for this game. So a couple more substitutes made on 76 minutes. Gibbs-White and Aina came off, replaced by Ibrahim Sangare and Jota Silva. And Forest, I think by this point, once Brentford had gone 2-0 up, Forest were toiling, trying to get balls into the box, trying to make things happen, but not really looking convincing with it. And it felt, it felt pretty straightforward for Brentford from that point. There was a bit of an incident down on the byline in front of the Trent end. Norgard took down Yates, I thought quite recklessly and a bit from behind on the goal line. Norgard was on a booking, and I think this could have been another instance of a potential red card for Brentford. But the referee, Darren England, surprise, surprise, saw it differently, and Norgard escaped punishment. But I think that's another one. If he's not already on a yellow card, it's a clear booking. And to rub salt into the wounds, Darren England then went and booked a member of the Forest backroom staff.
Yeah. I mean, that challenge, he almost, I mean, a couple of seasons ago, I think VAR would have picked up on that because he almost did like a kick out at Ryan Yates' leg while he was on the floor. And a couple of years ago, VAR, I'm saying I agree with that. I wasn't happy with it. VAR were doing this sort of thing. But a couple of seasons ago, VAR would have sent the referee over to the monitor and got him to send him off just for that. It's a straight red. So yeah, he was a bit lucky to escape there. It's just compounded the misery I think we were all feeling and the sense of frustration. I just hope our luck turns now somehow down at Selhurst Park on Monday night. I don't know what's going to take, some sort of freaky thing, just a penalty or a sending off or something like that, just to go in our favour, just to boost the players' confidence and get them going again and get them on that little run to the end of the season, because I think they need something. I'm not sure they've got it within the squad to sort of raise themselves independently. I can't see a lot of leadership there. A lot between your Gibbs Whites and your Yateses, and they look just as scared as everybody else at the moment. And I'm not sure it's coming from in the dressing rooms. Let's hope we get something down at Palace.
Let's just very quickly wrap up a few final bits. So 86 minutes, Ramon Sosa came on for Ryan Yates. He could have arguably come on sooner, as we talked about earlier, Ramon Sosa. Nico Williams put in a cross from the left-hand side, but it went over everybody and out for a goal kick. And I think at that point, a lot of Forest fans had enough and they started to head for the exits. Forest did have a free kick just as we got into 90 minutes. Williams was bundled over on the edge of the box. He was booked. Alanga took the free kick, had a go, but there were enough Brentford bodies in the way. The ball was scrambled clear, and that was it really in terms of any kind of response from Forest. And the game petered out and finished 2-0 to Brentford. And it was just a wholly disappointing night for Forest. And yeah, talking about Crystal Palace coming up, you're looking at the nature of that defeat last night, the nature of the defeat against Everton. I know we had a win at Spurs in between, but that's Spurs. How do Forest pick themselves up from this and try and get the season back on track? Because this is a couple of defeats now, 4 in the last 5, and it's potentially damaging.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you're in that sort of run, you'd maybe, if you're a coach, make some changes to the starting lineup. But looking at the bench, there's nobody there that you'd really trust to bring in and say make a big difference to the starting lineup. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, Stephen. It's going to be a tough old game down at Palace. They'll have had a nice long break after their semi-final. And I think the players will probably be, if I remember correctly, back to the days when Forest used to reach FA Cup finals, the players used to try extra hard and smash teams like Chelsea 7-0 on the way to the final. And they're trying extra hard and trying to guarantee their places in the team. So hopefully that's not the case with Palace players. Maybe they're trying to save themselves for the final. But it's suddenly all of a sudden it looks like a very, very difficult task.
And yeah, you don't know what Palace are going to turn up, do you? It could be the Palace that smashed Aston Villa at Wembley to get to the FA Cup final, or they could have an off day and Forest have a really good opportunity to pick up all 3 points. I think looking ahead to Palace and trying to find positives, looking at the way Forest responded on Sunday in the FA Cup semi-final. They were second best in the first half at Wembley. Man City were in front, but Forest in that second half responded well, had plenty of opportunities, were unlucky to not score. So we know the team have got it in them to pull out these big performances. And also looking at how well we've responded to setbacks throughout the season when we've had a bad result and things haven't gone to plan. Normally this group under Nuno find a response and they find a result. Am I just being too optimistic there, or can I think be turned around?
No, I mean, looking at the evidence as a season as a whole, you're 100% right, Stephen. They've had setbacks before, which they've responded to. It's just the nature of the way they performed, and the lack of energy. That's the worry for me. It's that lack of sort of momentum they've got now, and they just look so tired, didn't they? Just mentally and physically tired. And you wonder how they're going to turn that around in such a short time. And just it needs something. But I mean, logically speaking, yeah, they can easily go down there and win. Maybe if we get a boost over the weekend with some results going against us, maybe Newcastle losing and Chelsea losing, maybe that'll give them a little bit of confidence going into that game and just lift the pressure off them a little bit. But at the moment, I don't know. That it seems unlikely, but I hope I'm wrong.
I suppose we have to remind ourselves as well that this time last season we were looking over our shoulders at Luton and constantly hoping that they would be slipping up week after week and we'd be able to cling on to our Premier League status. It's amazing the difference that 12 months make, and we're all now disappointed that Forest have dropped from 3rd to 6th in the Premier League. Amazing how expectations can change. But no, I think because of how the season's gone and how things have unravelled in recent weeks, it is going to be disappointing. Because for so long we looked like we were going to finish in a Champions League spot and on merit as well. It wasn't a fluke that we were up there. So it's going to be a big challenge for Forest to pick themselves up after these last couple of league performances and the results. But I'm hoping that going away to Palace means that there's less expectation on the team, and we know that this Forest team performs well and there's no expectation there and we can just relax and do our thing. And it's going to be a bank holiday Monday night football. So all the attention will be on us. All of our rivals will have played over the weekend. So we'll know what we need to do. If I'm going to try and finish this match report on a positive note, I would hope that Forest have got the desire and the want in them to put Brentford behind them and right a few wrongs from last night.
I hope so, Stephen. I certainly hope so.
We'll leave it there then. That brings this match report to an end. My thanks to the Maradona of the Midlands for joining me, and thank you also for joining us. We will have our match report after the Crystal Palace game. Enjoy your bank holiday, and we will see you in a few days' time. Take care.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Bettering your business takes working with the best. With the James Hardie Alliance, you gain access to leads, training, networking, and support from the #1 brand of siding in North America. Achieve new levels of success by joining the James Hardie Alliance today.